Hi there. Today we have Adam on the call. Adam, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm excellent. Adam,
Good.
thanks for joining us on the podcast today.
Thanks
Can
for
you?
having me.
You're welcome. Adam, can you tell us who is Adam?
Uh, oh, how long do you have? I I live in Western Australia, so in Perth. Obviously, amidst all of the Corona stuff going on at the moment, so I don't want us like where you are. We're kind of just on the verge of shutting down. So everything I do is in schools, and
Yeah.
I'll talk a little bit about that later as well, I suppose. But I'm really passionate about what I do. I essentially 98% of what we do is speaking, and
Hmm.
most of it is in schools, and it's all centered around what I struggled with when I was in school and what I needed when I was in school and didn't get. So, I am a husband. I'm a
Hmm.
father. So I've got an 8-year-old from a previous relationship. And that's a part of what we talk about in schools as well. There's one of the topics is relationships. But after 20 years of unhealthy relationships, I finally got a healthy one.
Okay.
Which is all part of the journey and self-awareness, and there's lots of things that I have learnt. And the reason why I do what I do with Arm for Life is, I suppose, my experience not just at school but at home as well when I was growing up.
Okay. Sounds very interesting. Quite an interesting mission you have there. Like you said, you're trying to equip students at school with the knowledge or the life skills that you wish you had when you were at school.
Yeah, yeah,
So, can you tell me a bit about the age groups that you work with?
sure. Look, I'll tell you the backstory. I have been running Armed for Life. I created Armed for Life 8 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, but I've been speaking in schools for 20 years. So I got out of school at a turning point when I was 18, and that was in a team that was going into schools. And I realized I needed help the whole 5 years of high school, and no one was there to give it. And so I stayed in this team. I volunteered for 2 years, became the coordinator, started speaking. That was 20 years ago. And I did that for 5, 6 years, and then realized I probably needed a degree under my belt. So I pulled away to get my teaching degree, and I started working in a school as a chaplain. And I saw students walking around that reminded me of me. And so when I started Armed for Life, it was all literally, 13 to 18. That was the
Okay.
idea. Now, 8 years on, we have sessions from, I'd say, 9 all the way up until sessions that we run for adults in the workplace. So in schools, we do students, staff, and parents. And we also run sessions for adults, mostly around resilience and stress and health and well-being. That's mostly what we deal with in adults.
Okay. So obviously, like I said, it's quite a wide program, and it offers
Yeah.
like a wide age group. And
Yes.
it's really awesome what you're doing. Can you tell me a bit about like what inspired you to do this? Because, like you said, it was your own challenges that you faced.
Yeah.
But you spoke about, or you're speaking about the fact that you try to equip even the adults with resilience and how to manage
Yes.
stress. Tell
Yep.
me a bit about the challenges that you faced that made you realize that this is important, that other people can learn how to do this or handle this.
Sure. So when I talk in schools in particular, I talk about how there's three different kind of categories of students in school. Some students love school, some people are a bit meh, and some people hate
Hmm.
it. And I went through all three. And year 1 to 4, grade 1 to 4, depending where you are, I was champion boy. I was the fastest kid in the year group, so everyone loved me. And year 4, I ended up with eczema so bad that both of my feet were covered with little bubbles, and so I was given cortisone, or mum and dad tell me different stories, tablets or injections. Either way, I was on the roids in year 4, so I gained a whole bunch of weight. Like, I doubled in size, lost my speed, my sporting ability, the bullying started. And so year 5, I turned to the academic side and I did the advanced classes, so I was pretty intelligent in year 5 and 6. Then year 7, my own friends turned on me. And so I went into high school, which started for me in year 8, with no confidence, no self-esteem. I didn't find friends until the middle of year 9 because of what happened in year 7. And the bullying started day 1, and I was bullied every single day of my high school life. And on top of that, stuff at home wasn't good. So even as a kid, all I remember is mum yelling and swearing and screaming. And I knew dad loved me, but he was never around. He was like old school. Polish generation. You asked about my surname previously. No one knows how to pronounce it. But that old school European, you just love your family by you work for them and you provide, and that's it. You're not even there. And so he brought into a business when I was 3, and so I hardly ever saw him. I knew he loved me. We have an amazing relationship now, but he was kind of just not around. So I didn't even have that father figure. And, and then experiencing, struggling with mum, it was, I didn't feel safe at home. And then all this stuff happened. I didn't feel safe at school. And so when the bullying kicked up to daily, by the middle of, and then parents divorced in year 8 too. So it's a storm, a perfect storm for things to completely fall apart. And so by year 10, I had a suicide plan in place. I got to the end of year 12 and I passed by like 2%. So even though I did the advanced classes in primary school, I only just passed year 12. And so I joined this team going into schools, and this turning point that I had, which is the reason why I do what I do, which is very personal for me. I became a Christian. What it did was it helped me to see that I had value. I didn't deserve to be treated the way I was. And in fact, I shouldn't have been treated the way I was. I should have actually, someone should have been reaching out and helping. And not a single adult ever asked if I was okay. And that's where the seed was planted. Maybe you need to be that guy. You need to go back into schools and help in the way that you needed it. And so that's kind of, the seed was planted there. And I stayed with the organization, became the coordinator, but the seed didn't really come to fruition until about 12 years later when I created Art for Life.
Okay. Wow. It sounds like you have some really, like, obviously touching story, and you face some really hardship and adversity, but it just shows that even through the adversity, you discovered purpose.
Yes.
So that's the awesome part. You didn't let it break you down or keep you down, but rather allowed you to find a purpose to help other people and pull other people up.
Yeah.
Then you also mentioned at the age of 10, or year 10, how old are you in year 10?
15, 16.
Okay. So you said you had a suicide plan?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did.
And then what made you not follow through with that? What made you not follow through with that?
A couple of things. One of them was my grandma. So my saving grace the entire way through my childhood and my teenage years was my grandma. So both on my dad's side, my grandma and granddad, so Oma and Oppa as we called them, were both European. So my granddad was a POW from Poland, and my grandma was a nurse in Germany during World War II. And that deep sense of caring, she's the most caring person I've ever met. And so she literally just loved me. And it was the closest I've ever experienced to unconditional love. And so even when my parents divorced and mum left, she'd come over in the morning to make me breakfast in bed to get me out of bed. And previous to that, from when I was 3 onwards, I was sent to hers every weekend. And once I could choose, I kept going because it's the only place I felt safe. And, we go to the movies till it wasn't cool anymore on the weekends. We did so many things together, and she was just the best. Also the only other Christian in my family, and was constantly praying for me. And then it was kind of really that love and that connection I had with her is a part of the reason why I didn't do it. The other reason is pretty simple. I don't like pain. And so I think that honestly deterred me, as silly as it sounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what you mentioned is that, your grandmother was a buffering factor. It helped prevent you from following through, or stop you from following through, but also that the turning point came in your life when you found Christianity.
Yeah.
Okay. And from there, you discovered value, that you are valuable. So before that, you didn't really feel valuable, even though even though your grandmother was there for you? Okay.
No, my self-esteem was so low that I couldn't sense that value or experience that value, even from my grandma. Like I knew she loved me, but I just couldn't. I didn't really. It kept me going, but for me, I guess when I talk about it in schools, I often say that year 8 to year 12, I kind of went numb. I couldn't really feel anything. I couldn't really. I was, that's why we talk about so many different topics, because I experienced so many of them. I had a low self-esteem. I had no resilience. I was bullied every day, and the combination of all those things meant that I couldn't even feel. I had no self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in that place, you tend to be really selfish, and that was me as well. Like everything was about me. When you have a low self-esteem,
Yeah.
everything becomes about, I just need to feel better about myself. And so I was leaning on coping mechanisms. 2 of the 3 became addictions that were very destructive for me. So yeah, there was a mix of everything going on.
Okay. And then you said when you obviously at your turning point when you discovered Christianity, you
Yeah.
started finding value in yourself. Tell me a bit
Mm.
about that, this process of rediscovering who you are, rediscovering your purpose, your value, and what you're able to do. Tell me about, because I'm assuming it didn't just change and automatically you
No,
were confident. Okay.
no. Well, there were past that turning point. There was probably 2 others.
Okay.
When I started seeing a counselor when I was 24, and then a psychologist when I was 35.
Okay.
And so, I've experienced 3 periods of depression and anxiety. And the first was, from about 11 to 18, when I became a Christian. And then the second hit, and this is, what I talk about in schools. There's not many things that I'm very, I battle with shame, if that makes sense. The only
Mm-hmm.
thing is that I've been married twice before. And so
Okay.
that, got married, and I've only had 6 relationships. It's just that I thought I had to marry them. So got married, didn't even last a year, went through a divorce, fell apart, went and saw a counselor and started pulling stuff out, but there was a bunch of stuff that was missed. And so, and then kind of got married again, went through another divorce, and went and saw a psych. And that's when a bunch of stuff was pulled out. And I was like, oh, I can't believe this is the case. And then realizing that I've been choosing women like my mum, and there was a bunch of things that there was massive revelations. This was 6 years ago. And so I'm turning 41 this year. And for me, I'm the healthiest version of myself. I'm even physically healthier than I've ever been before. And that's, for me, is that I want to continue that trajectory. Being healthy in body, mind, and soul, that kind of stuff. So that's what we talk about when we run the wellbeing session. So yeah, for me, it was definitely a process, and it was quite a long process, to be honest. There were little bits and pieces that I picked up along the way, but realistically, it's probably about a 17-year process, to be honest.
Yeah.
We never ever get to that point where we're complete and we're finished and we're perfect. It's just ask my wife. But for me, I'm definitely healthier than before.
Okay, that's awesome. It's awesome that you said that. You know what? Today you can look back and you can say you're the best version of yourself, whether it is physically, spiritually, emotionally, you're at your peak. And that's awesome, because what that shows is that on the journey of life, you're continuously getting better, you're growing, you're becoming wiser, you're becoming stronger, and you're aiming to become the best version of you. So that's the bottom line. 10 years from now, you might look back and say, wow, now I am the best version of myself. And that's what you want.
Let's hope so.
That's what you want, basically, because life is we're always learning. We're always learning. We're always growing.
Yep.
Okay. And then tell me, what are the 3 top things that you've discovered can help or helped you overcome the whether it's depression, the low self-esteem, just basically all the accumulation of issues that you were struggling with?
3 is hard. It's always 3. Well, I don't know why that is the magic number. Give me 3 tips. Give me 3 things. Give me 3. It's because there's about 10 that I'd want to say.
Okay.
If I had to choose 3, I would say food, exercise, sleep.
Okay. Food, exercise, sleep.
Simple as it sounds, food can be a form of medicine or the slowest form of poison. And I'm a big foodie. I love good food. I'm a big fan of burgers, like good burgers, like legit burgers, not McDonald's burgers. And so we do our own burgers at home, which, do them once a week or once a fortnight. I'm about, for me, I don't particularly love cooking, but I love cooking if it tastes good and I know it's really healthy, then it's an achievement for me. And so, but I know the impact food has on the body, and that's why I'm pretty healthy. And people often tell me I look anywhere between 30 and 33 is usually the guess, and I'm pretty happy with that. I want to keep that going, and I think food's a massive part of that. And especially, for example, someone says to me, really struggling with anxiety, really struggling with depression, I feel really bad, really low, in terms of how they feel. My literally first 2 questions are, what have you eaten today? And have you been to the gym? Because it can literally change how you feel so quickly. I do one-on-one sessions with people, not all the time, because 95% I want to do is speaking.
Mm-hmm.
But so many times I've had people, you know, I remember one woman contacted me saying, can you see my daughter? She's depressed. She's not going to school. And what it turned out, she was struggling with anxiety. And 3 of the 4 hours, all we did was talk about food to cut out, food to add in. And then I gave her some exercises as well. That was it. In 4 weeks, my mum called me back and said, I've got my daughter back. Thank you so much. Food just plays such a massive role.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, our diet is wrong. The food pyramid is wrong. So we need to be, you know, eating, you know, 50% our meals, 50% should be nutrient dense carbs. And we're talking plants. And 25% should be protein, should be good sources of protein. And then 25% should be fat. Our brain is made of 60% fat. I get passionate about this kind of stuff, so I get a little bit yelly, sorry. But then the second one is exercise, and it should be weight-based training. Like every other exercise is good, but weight-based training causes your muscles to draw on all of the amino acids in your bloodstream except tryptophan. And your tryptophan is what your body uses to make serotonin. So when you finish a weight session, you're not going to get a boost of endorphins like you do with all exercise. You get a rush of serotonin. So you're getting that double hit. And if you're eating right and you're exercising right, usually the sleep fixes itself to a degree because you have more serotonin. Your body uses serotonin to make melatonin. So they're all connected, but they're the top 3. You know, and then we've got a whole session on this. We've got a whole session on sleep because sleep is so incredibly important. But basically, and there's an incredible TED talk that Matt Walker did, guy from the UK who's got a sleep center, and talks about how you get less than 8 hours sleep a night, you're basically shortening your lifespan. It literally has an impact on our DNA level, which is insane. I didn't even know that until I heard that late last year.
Oh, I need to watch
that.
that.
It's really good. Yeah.
Okay. And then I completely agree with you about the 3 principles you just shared now. They can help you. Obviously, sleep, you said, food, and exercise. Exercise actually changed my life. That's one of the things that's really changed my life.
Awesome.
It helped me to get a different perspective on life. And then what 3 principles would you say, or mindset tools would you say is really powerful as well? So we spoke about sleep, nutrition, and exercise.
I would say, I'm thinking about mindset. I would say, trying to think of translating what I talk about and what I believe into mindset principles. I would suggest vulnerability, number 1, self-awareness, number 2. Probably find a better one if I have time to think about it, but I'd say gratitude, number 3. Gratitude's good. There's a lot of research that talks about how just thinking about what you're grateful for can change the brain chemistry. But I reckon there's better ones out there. But 1 and 2, I would say the same. I am a massive believer in vulnerability, being real and honest. You can't have healthy relationships without vulnerability. There is so much power, and I think why we've been so successful. We've spoken to over 1 million students in 8 years.
Wow.
As you know, we just did a trip to South Africa that was our first international trip. 4 of the 13 schools have already booked for next year. We don't even have dates. That's how positive it was received.
That's really awesome.
So, really exciting as well. And then, possible, reaching further as well. Sorry, my dog is licking me. Go away. But that vulnerability, I think, is why. Because people can tell whether you're authentic or not. So I'm a really big believer in that. The second is self-awareness. And that was, for me, probably up until the last 6 years ago, that wouldn't have been as high on the list. But having that revelation of myself allowed me to work on myself for 2 years and completely shift things, so that I now have an incredibly healthy relationship. That wouldn't have happened if I didn't have that self-awareness. And I don't think I'd be as healthy if I didn't have that that moment of self-awareness, and now is something that I continue to try and practice. So that's the 3 I'd probably choose.
Okay. I completely agree with, like you said, number 2, which is self-awareness. I believe that change happens when we become self-aware. So you can't have change without being aware of the problem or the issue at hand or what's causing it. So I'm a huge advocate for that. The vulnerability part is not something that I am quite vulnerable to people who I can trust, but obviously not I haven't discovered the power in just, but I mean, in your situation, like you said, with other people, that is
Sure.
obviously, you need to have that. Um,
Mm.
but I've also discovered that you need to know when to, like, if you're not in a school environment, you need to know when to be vulnerable, because some people will obviously
Yeah, yeah,
use you.
yeah.
You understand?
So
Mm-hmm.
as a teenager, I didn't tell anyone what was going on, right?
Yeah.
So there was no vulnerability. Then I hit 18, had this turning point, and I was oversharing with everyone, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like just telling everyone everything. But then once I realized what I was doing, I saw it as a negative thing, and it wasn't only really until probably 5, 6 years ago as a part of that process of
Mm-hmm.
self-awareness, and then when I started being vulnerable and open in the school setting, that I saw people warm to it so much. And I realized that, generally speaking, once you build trust, vulnerability is powerful in any kind of relationship. We're talking
Yes.
family, we're talking friends, we're talking dating relationships. Once the trust is there, vulnerability is incredibly powerful.
Yes. I
And
completely
it
agree.
really takes that relationship to the next level.
I completely agree with that. Completely,
Mm.
completely. And then Adam, you mentioned that you were in South Africa a few months ago. Tell me a bit about your
Yeah.
trip to South Africa.
That was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, because it's the first international trip we've done, I had no idea if South African kids would connect with me or not. I slightly dreaded getting there and they're just sitting there looking at me blankly while I'm talking, maybe even not even understanding what I was saying. I wasn't sure. I had one teacher comment, I can't understand what he's saying. But all the kids did. And I legitimately, all of the kids in South Africa, the teenagers in South Africa, were about 10 times more responsive than the kids here in Australia.
Wow.
It was actually really interesting because I came back and started presenting here again. And I was like, man, basically, and I remember a mutual friend of ours, Jared,
Mm-hmm.
and Blake, last year, and after the first school, they were like, bro, what's wrong with the students in Australia? Like they were really surprised and wondering what was wrong, because it's very much like, sit back and like impress me. Like that's like all kids in Australia. Like, you got
Mm-hmm.
different levels of that, but that's almost like the base issue behind all the students. It's almost like there's a sense of entitlement in our whole culture. Whereas in Cape Town, that wasn't present. There was no sense of entitlement. They were all kind of leaning and engaged from the get-go, which was a really cool experience. And so I'm already excited to go back.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Like you said, and it's also like I said, an incredible way to share your passion with the world,
Yeah.
and go to a place
Yeah.
where you know that, listen here, I feel like people are really accepting me and my experience and my wisdom. So that's
Yeah.
great. And then with regards to entitlement, you said that you feel that sometimes there's a culture difference between the schools or
Mm.
the teenagers in Australia and Cape Town.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. And what would you say is, besides the way they accepted you, what would you say is the biggest difference in the way perhaps the kids think,
Um,
if there is?
there definitely would be a difference. I mean, their experiences are different. What I noticed is
Mm-hmm.
the issues are the same. Like, we did because our flagship session, the main session we do here, the most commonly booked session is resilience.
Okay.
And I found a lot of the kids, when I was talking about resilience, they didn't know what it was in Cape Town. Whereas it's been a buzzword here for like 8 years. And so, their concept or understanding of things might be a little bit different, but the issues were the same. They're struggling with self-esteem. They're struggling making poor choices. There's no resilience. So we get hit by a problem and we completely fall apart. Like, the issues were the same, which I was also surprised by. But the circumstances are different.
Yeah.
So the issues are similar. I guess I wouldn't say the same. I'd say they're very similar, because you drive through some of the areas in Cape Town, and you see it in movies, but it's different seeing it in person. Like some of those areas where there's drugs and gangs, and I was like, man, it's almost a little bit of a shock.
Yeah.
So the circumstances are different, but I think there's more of appreciation of school. I think in Cape Town. I'm not sure because I didn't talk to any students.
Okay.
Like, it's one-on-one.
Okay. I'll share something with you after the call.
Sure.
I did some research, my honors project with
Okay.
teenagers in Cape Town. So you can
Oh, wow.
probably
Cool.
use that to inform your future sessions with them.
Nice.
Okay.
Definitely.
And then Adam, So now we found out what your purpose is and what you love doing, you're passionate about helping students. What is the impact you would like to see within the next 10 years through your work?
Oh, I've only been 8 years already, and we've done over 400 schools here, and we have 30 different topics now. I took over another organisation last year called Frame Initiatives, which basically the sessions centre around healthy relationships and healthy communities. So
Okay.
sexual harassment, sexual consent, like sexual abuse, rape, pornography, respect, like sessions around that. And I took it on because one of those coping mechanisms I had was pornography, and that turned into a full-blown addiction.
Okay.
So yeah, those for me, the whole. Oh, my dog is losing it. I don't know why. Now I've forgotten the question. Okay, so where we're going? We're even just because of the whole situation with the coronavirus. 2 years ago, I created a membership, an online membership, and then I dropped it. I spent like $1,000 or $2,000 creating it and filming content, and then just completely dropped. I forgot about it. I thought, no, schools aren't going to pay for online content. Now, schools are literally looking at shutting down. And the only way we're going to be able to present is actually having online content. And we're going to make it available to parents for their kids as well. So that may take us to another level in terms of we don't have to be over the other side of Australia. We don't have to be in Cape Town to be having that impact. So that's eventually what I want to do, especially in Australia, is I want to have like a base in probably specifically Melbourne and Sydney, where I've got a presenter on the ground there who's running sessions in schools there. And then the guy I mentioned before, Jared, we're creating something called the Global Change Agency. So basically anywhere else we go around the world, we're creating a network with people around the world that have this purpose and passion to want to create change in people, not just kids, but people in general, because a lot of our sessions are for adults now as well. So that's eventually, I want that Global Change Agency to be kind of operating kind of a number of areas around the world, and we can funnel them towards like the online content that we have. Who knows? I had no idea that we would go international. So yeah.
But that's incredible. That's incredible that you have this kind of foresight to be like, you know what? I think that we can tap into the online market because, like you say, that way you can make an impact on the other side of the world while you're still in Australia. So there's definitely positives to being having a presence online.
Yes.
So yeah, but Adam, I would just like to say thank you for taking the time to chat with me about your mission, your purpose, the struggles you faced, and how you've basically used that to impact the people's lives and change their lives. So incredible,
Thank you,
incredible mission. Thank you so
Thank you for
much.
having me. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks.
Thank you.